Princess Liara floated above the crystalline towers of Erythia, her silver robes catching the sunlight as her hovercraft glided smoothly between the spires. The city below sparkled like a sea of stars, every building a prism of light and color. From this height, she could see the bustling streets filled with citizens moving with precision, their lives perfectly ordered by centuries of tradition. Liara loved her world, but sometimes, even amidst such beauty, it felt suffocating. The weight of her title, the endless rules and the constant expectation to act without error often made her feel trapped. Today was meant to be a celebration, a ceremonial flight honoring the city's founding. Liara had insisted on leading it herself, against the advice of her court. "You are the princess," her advisor had said. "You should remain safe. Let the guards take the lead." Liara had smiled politely but refused. She wanted to feel alive, to breathe the air that moved freely between the towers, unbound by politics or fear. But life has a way of humbling even the boldest hearts. As she approached a narrow channel between two massive spires, a sudden jolt rocked the hovercraft. Liara's hands flew to the controls, her pulse racing. A mechanical failure, or worse, sabotage, threw her off balance. The craft spun dangerously, scraping against a sharp edge of crystal. Sparks flew, and her heart pounded in terror. Then, with a shattering crack, the craft tipped over, sending her sliding toward the edge of a platform high above the city streets. From below, the guards shouted and scrambled. But as the crowd of officials and attendants gathered, a strange hesitation rippled through them. Erythian society had long valued status over courage. To touch a royal without permission, or worse, to act recklessly, was a breach of protocol. No one moved to help. Some whispered nervously, others simply froze, unsure of the proper procedure. Fear and hierarchy had become stronger than bravery. Liara's fingers scraped against the edge of the platform, leaving faint cracks in the crystal. Her breaths came in ragged gasps. She looked down and realized the sheer distance to safety. It was impossible to jump. The hovercraft lay twisted behind her, a dangerous trap she could not return to. Her vision blurred with pain and fear, and for the first time in her life she felt utterly alone. Then she heard it. A voice that did not hesitate, that did not calculate political gain. "Princess!" someone shouted. She looked up to see a human, clad in a sturdy uniform of Earth design, standing confidently at the edge of the platform above her. His name was Ethan Ward, a human soldier visiting Erythia as part of a diplomatic mission. Humans were rare here, a species respected for their skill in technology and warfare, but often seen as reckless and impulsive. None of the Erythians had ever dared such a thing. None, except this one. Without waiting, Ethan leapt across the narrow gap, his movements precise and controlled. He landed lightly, his hands reaching out for hers. "Grab on," he commanded. His voice was calm but firm, a contrast to the chaos surrounding them. Liara hesitated, pride warring with desperation. Then, seeing no one else would act, she seized his hands. Strong and steady, he pulled her up onto the platform, holding her tightly as she crumpled into his chest. Pain shot through her body, but there was relief too, a warmth she had not felt in days of isolation. The crowd below gasped. Whispers spread through the court like wildfire. "Who is this human? He dares touch the princess? Is this allowed?" Fear and scandal mixed with awe. Liara, despite the pain, looked into Ethan's eyes and saw nothing but determination. He had risked himself for her, for no reward, for no recognition. It was impossible not to feel gratitude, and something deeper, a recognition that humans carried a bravery unlike any Erythian had shown her. "Thank you," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're safe now," he said, scanning the surroundings for further danger. "We need to get you inside before anyone else tries something." Together, they moved cautiously along the crystalline walkways, Ethan supporting her weight with careful strength. Below, the officials began to act, but only in whispers and calculations. Some were angry that a human had interfered. Some were relieved she was safe. Most were simply unsure how to respond. Inside the palace, Liara was gently helped onto a soft, cushioned seat. She winced as she tried to stand, but Ethan's firm hand steadied her. "You're injured," he said, noting the faint bruises on her arms and the small scratches on her face. "We need to get you treated." The court's healers rushed forward, but their hands hovered uncertainly. Tradition dictated that no one touch a princess without her explicit consent, and some officials still viewed Ethan's actions as a scandal. Yet Liara, ignoring protocol for the first time, stepped forward. "He helped me. He has my permission," she said. The words shocked the room into silence. Ethan guided her to a treatment chamber, where advanced medical devices hummed softly. He stayed close as the healers worked, offering her steady reassurance. The princess had never felt so protected, so cared for. Not by her guards, not by her advisors, but by this human who acted out of pure courage and principle. As she recovered, Liara's mind wandered. She had always been surrounded by people, yet never truly alone. Today, she realized, solitude had become a threat, not just comfort. And yet, a single human had proven that bravery and loyalty could transcend social rules, that action could outweigh hierarchy. Hours passed. The city outside continued its rhythm, unaware of the drama high above. Within the palace, whispers and debates swirled. Some officials plotted to remove Ethan, to accuse him of overstepping boundaries. Others could not deny his heroism. Liara, weak but resolute, stood at the center of this storm. She had to make a choice, not only for herself but for the future of human-Erithian relations. When the healers finally left her alone with Ethan, she looked at him and smiled faintly. "I owe you my life," she said, "and I do not take that lightly." "You don't owe me anything," Ethan replied, his tone gentle. "I did what anyone should do. I couldn't stand by and watch you fall." Liara studied him, her mind racing. There was something about humans, something unyielding, something brave. Perhaps it was their willingness to act even when the world stood still, even when fear and protocol would have frozen anyone else. She had seen it firsthand, and it had changed her perspective forever. The door to her chamber opened suddenly. An official entered, frowning. "Princess, the court demands a statement. How will you justify this incident, this human's interference?" Liara's gaze did not waver. She stood slowly, testing her strength, and looked at Ethan. "I will say this," she began, her voice clear and firm. "I was in danger. This human saved me when no one else would. He acted with courage and honor. I will not condemn him for doing what was right." The room was silent. Shock rippled through the officials like a cold wind. No one had ever seen a princess speak so boldly, to defend a foreigner against the weight of centuries-old rules. Murmurs began, some admiring, others outraged, but none could argue with the truth. Liara had been saved, and Ethan had acted with bravery beyond measure. That night, as the city lights flickered across the crystal towers, Liara and Ethan sat together in quiet reflection. The princess was still weak, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. She knew the court would test her, would challenge her decision, but she also knew she had a true ally in Ethan, a human who had risked everything to stand by her side. And for the first time in her life, Liara felt a flicker of hope, not only for herself, but for a world where courage and loyalty could overcome fear and hierarchy. She had fallen today, yes, but she had risen in a way that no protocol, no court, and no tradition could suppress. Outside, the stars of Erythia shimmered, silent witnesses to a bond forged in bravery, trust, and humanity. The journey ahead would be difficult, the challenges numerous, but one truth remained unshakable. She was not alone anymore, not while he stood beside her. And somewhere deep in her heart, Liara knew this was only the beginning. The morning sun cast long beams across the crystal towers of Erythia, illuminating the city in shades of gold and violet. Princess Liara sat by the tall window of her chamber, her arms still sore from the crash, yet her mind was sharper than ever. Yesterday, a human had risked everything to save her. Today, she would ensure that courage was recognized, not punished. Ethan stood nearby, adjusting his equipment. His uniform looked out of place among the flowing robes and metallic ornaments of the palace, but he didn't care. He had no desire for recognition, only to make sure Liara remained safe. He had noticed the whispers outside her chamber, the wary glances of the court officials, and he knew their patience was thin. Humans were strangers in this rigid world, and standing against centuries of hierarchy was no small task. "You need to rest," he said gently, watching her flex her fingers and arms. "You can't take on the court while you're still injured." Liara shook her head, determination gleaming in her eyes. "I can't let them control this story, Ethan. If I don't stand up, they will blame you. Worse, they might see this as weakness and exploit it. I will speak and I will act. I cannot let fear rule Erythia, not even here, not even now." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then I will stand with you." The court convened in the grand hall, a massive chamber of polished crystal walls and floating platforms. Officials filled the space, their faces a mixture of curiosity, anger, and disbelief. Whispers spread like wildfire as Liara entered, leaning slightly on a decorative staff, her silver robes catching the light. She was not alone. Behind her, Ethan walked steadily, his calm presence a silent declaration that he would not be intimidated. The head official, a tall Erythian with sharp features, stepped forward. "Princess Liara, we demand an explanation for yesterday's unconventional event. A human interfered in your flight, risking both his life and the sanctity of our traditions. How do you justify this breach of protocol?" Liara's gaze swept the hall, her voice clear and firm. "I justify it because I was in danger. Protocol did not save me. Status did not save me. Only courage did. And the human who stood by my side acted with honor, risking his life to protect me. I will not condemn him. He is not a criminal. He is a hero." Murmurs filled the chamber, some impressed, others outraged. Several officials clenched their fists, unwilling to accept that a human could be praised above their carefully maintained order. Yet no one could deny the truth. Liara had been saved, and Ethan's bravery was undeniable. One elder with pale crystalline eyes stepped forward. "Princess, your words challenge centuries of hierarchy. Are you prepared to face the consequences of defying tradition?" Liara met his gaze steadily. "Yes, and I'm prepared to change those consequences." Ethan, sensing the rising tension, spoke calmly but firmly. "I did what any decent person would do. The question is not what I did, but whether Erythia will value courage over fear. The choice is yours, not mine." The hall fell silent. For the first time, no one spoke, no one whispered. The words of a human and the resolve of a princess had shifted the balance of power. Hours later, in the quiet of her private chambers, Liara and Ethan discussed the threat that still lingered. A faction of officials had been plotting behind the scenes, seeing her injury as an opportunity to manipulate her and gain control of political decisions. If left unchecked, this group could attempt a kidnapping, using her as leverage against the human delegation. "We need a plan," Liara said, her eyes serious. "They think my injury makes me weak. They don't know what I can do when I have allies I trust." Ethan nodded. "Then we show them. Carefully, strategically, without reckless risk. We cannot rely on rules or hope. They will not protect you. Only action will." That night, under the cover of darkness, Ethan and Liara moved through secret passages in the palace, preparing for the threat they sensed. The corridors were quiet, the air cool against their skin. Liara felt a surge of confidence as Ethan explained the steps they would take. For the first time, she realized that courage was not simply a human trait. It could be nurtured, shared, and protected. Suddenly, faint sounds echoed through the hallways. Shadows moved with intent. The faction had begun their attempt. Guards loyal to the conspirators appeared at the end of the corridor, weapons raised. Ethan stepped forward without hesitation. "Princess, stay close. Follow my lead." His voice was calm, steady, unshakable. He moved with precision, disarming the first few guards with careful skill, guiding Liara past each obstacle. She followed, heart pounding, yet her fear was tempered by the trust she had in him. As they reached the central chamber, the conspirators had already cornered them. Their leader, a tall noble with silver hair and piercing eyes, sneered. "So the human and the princess think they can defy us? Do you understand the consequences?" Liara lifted her chin. "The consequence is that you fail. Courage does not recognize fear. Honor does not bow to threats, and I am not helpless." Ethan moved at her side, scanning for openings. With careful coordination, he and Liara used the environment to their advantage. Sliding panels, shifting lights, and low-gravity passages. Guards were disarmed, blocked, and persuaded to stand down as the duo advanced. It was a dance of precision and courage, human ingenuity paired with Liara's growing confidence. Finally, the conspirators found themselves trapped in a chamber with no escape. Liara stood tall, her voice echoing. "You sought to harm me and undermine our city. Today you have failed, not because of rules, but because courage, loyalty, and honesty prevail." The defeated nobles bowed their heads in grudging respect. Even those who had doubted the human's presence could no longer ignore his skill and bravery. For the first time, a human had not only survived Erythian protocol but had inspired it. The next morning, the court gathered once again. This time, the energy in the chamber was different. Officials no longer whispered in fear but in admiration. Liara spoke, her voice clear and commanding.
"Yesterday I was saved by courage, not rank."
"Not protocol, courage. Let this be a lesson. The strength of a world does not come from tradition alone, but from those who act when others hesitate." Ethan remained at her side, silent, yet steadfast. His presence was a statement. Humanity's bravery could bridge worlds, inspire change, and protect the innocent. The court could no longer ignore it. Over the following days, reforms began quietly. Guards were encouraged to act decisively in emergencies. Citizens were praised for bravery rather than rank. And Liara, guided by her experience and Ethan's example, became a symbol of leadership that valued courage and humanity over fear and hierarchy. In private, Liara looked at Ethan and smiled faintly. "You've changed more than just me. You've changed Erythia." Ethan shook his head. "No, princess, you did. I only stood by your side. You chose to act, to speak, to inspire. I only followed." Liara nodded, understanding the truth of his words. Courage could be contagious, and trust could reshape even the most rigid society. Humans, she realized, were not just visitors or strangers. They were a force that could inspire hope and change, simply by standing firm and acting rightly. Weeks passed, and the city of Erythia slowly adapted. Citizens spoke more freely, guards acted with confidence, and the shadow of the conspirators faded. Liara regained her strength, her confidence stronger than before, and throughout it all Ethan remained nearby, a reminder that bravery, loyalty, and honor could come from any world, any species. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Liara and Ethan stood atop the tallest tower, looking down at the sparkling city below. The wind carried the scent of crystal and ozone, the city lights flickering like stars reborn. "Do you think they will ever forget what happened?" Liara asked softly. Ethan smiled. "No. Courage leaves a mark stronger than any rule or tradition. And this mark is just the beginning." Liara nodded. For the first time, she felt truly free, not just from fear, but from the limitations that tradition and hierarchy had placed upon her. She had a choice now, and the world was watching, and beside her, the human who had saved her life stood quietly, unwavering. Together, they had proven that courage could overcome fear, that loyalty could inspire change, and that humanity, flawed, bold, and unafraid, could stand beside anyone, anywhere, and make a difference. The stars above Erythia shone brighter that night, reflecting not just in the crystal towers, but in the hearts of those who had witnessed bravery, loyalty, and hope. Princess Liara had survived, but more importantly, she had grown, and the world around her had changed forever. And somewhere deep in the silent glow of the towers, a quiet truth remained. No one who acts with courage is ever truly alone, and no world that honors bravery will ever fall.